Chapter 4, Kay. Where the darkness awaits. By the time I left Emma at the crossroads, the sun had already begun to sink, painting the streets in long shadows. My hand still felt the faint pressure where she had clung to my sleeve, but it was the weight in my chest that lingered heavier. Every step home felt slower than the last. The broken hilt at my side tapped against my leg with each stride, a reminder of what had happened, of Jiro's blood, of the wolves' crimson eyes. I kept my head down. I didn't want to meet the eyes of anyone passing by. What would they see if they looked at me now? A student walking home from class? Or someone who had just carried his friend's body through the streets? When I reached the house, the quiet unsettled me. Usually by this time, I could hear the deliberate scrape of a whetstone against steel from the workshop, or the soft clink of dishes being put away. But tonight there was nothing. Grandfather. My voice echoed too loud in the silence. I slipped my shoes off and stepped inside. The faint scent of dust and cooled tea hanging in the air. A single cup sat on the low table, half finished. That's when I saw him, collapsed on the floor, his body slumped sideways, one hand still reaching toward the table. My stomach dropped. Grandfather. I rushed to his side, the broken sword clattering against the floor as I knelt. His skin was cold with sweat, his breath shallow and uneven. I don't remember carrying him to bed. The next thing I knew, he was sitting upright against the wall, propped by pillows, the lamplight painting deep lines across his face. His breathing had steadied, but it was shallow. Every rise and fall of his chest strained, like even that small effort cost him something. How are you feeling? I asked quietly, sitting on the edge of the futon. He gave a faint chuckle, dry and weak. Old, boy. That's how. I frowned. You collapse. What happened? His eyes, clouded with age but still sharp, lingered on me. My body's failing me. You've noticed it. The way I tire faster. The cough that doesn't go away. It isn't just age, Kai. It's the miasma. I stiffened at the word. For most people, it clings only at the surface. Their bodies ache. Their skin weathers. But they endure. For those of us who can feel near. He exhaled slowly. It cuts deeper, corrodes us from the inside. Tonight it struck harder than it has in years. Something filled the air. My chest tightened. I thought back to the snarls, the crimson glow, the blood in the dirt, the heaviness, the wolves. I whispered. His brow rose slightly. Wolves? So I told him everything. The red eyes in the tree line, the chaos on the field, Emma and Jiro fighting at my side, Jiro's sacrifice, the seal I'd torn open, the red-furred alpha, and the massive shadow that dwarfed them all. When I finished, the room was silent, heavy as stone. Ichiro's eyes closed for a long moment. His head bowed as though the weight of it pressed him deeper into the pillow. Jiro. His voice was rough. That boy's spirit burned bright. To fall in such a way. It's a wound this world didn't deserve. I swallowed hard, the knot in my chest tightening. He saved us. Emma would have. I broke off, clenching my fists. It should have been me. Ichiro opened his eyes again, sharp despite the sorrow. Don't say that. Survival isn't shame, Kai. Every friend you lose, every sacrifice made, it becomes part of you. You carry them forward. That is the burden of the hunter. I couldn't answer. His words dug deeper than I wanted to admit. Finally, he drew a slow, labored breath. But listen well. The wolves' appearance wasn't random. Wherever beasts like that gather, miasma follows. Their very presence poisons the air. What struck me down tonight was no stray gust. It was their corruption seeping into the land. And if packs are moving openly again, it means one thing. His gaze locked onto mine. Tired but fierce. The demons are stirring. They thought Salandra's hunters were dead, erased a decade ago. That's why we've survived this long. Because they believed no one was left. But tonight you fought. You revealed yourself. And sooner or later they will know a hunter still lives. The weight of his words pressed against my chest heavier than any blade. Ichiro's gaze softened, though his voice carried a weary gravity. One last thing. Kai, you must remember what I've told you before. Not all demons are the same. Some live only to kill, yes, but others simply exist. To judge them all by blood alone is to become blind. I frowned at that, still raw from the fight. His eyes fixed on me, sharp even through the haze of age. Hatred is a fire, Kai. If you feed it too much, it consumes you. I won't see you lose yourself to it. Promise me you'll remember that. The words stuck in my throat. After everything that had happened, after Jiro, it felt impossible to believe. I looked away, muttering, why bring this up again? But Ichiro only sank deeper into the pillow, his eyes closing with a slow, tired exhale. Because it may be the most important lesson I can leave you. The silence stretched, broken only by the faint rattle of his breathing. I sat there a while longer, uneasy with the weight of his words, until finally I rose and left him to his rest. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the shoji doors, pale and soft, carrying with it the hum of cicadas in the trees. For a moment, the world felt deceptively calm. I slid the door open to his room, half expecting to hear the steady rasp of his cough, or see him, already awake with that sharp gaze that always seemed to pierce through me. But the room was still. Too still. He lay where I had left him the night before, the blanket drawn neatly to his chest. His face was calm, almost peaceful. The lines of age softened in rest. For one aching second, I thought he was only sleeping. Then the silence sank in. No rise of breath, no flicker of movement. My throat tightened, and the weight of it crashed into me like a blade to the gut. The lesson he had pressed on me the night before, his final words, echoed hollowly in my ears. I fell to my knees beside him, the stillness of the house pressing in around me. The man who had carried me through my loss, who had taught me what it meant to endure, was gone. A few days passed. The room felt wrong without him. Too quiet, too bare. The bedding had been folded away, the futon stored, leaving only the faint scent of incense clinging to the wood. Sunlight cut across the floor in pale lines, dust drifting lazily in the air where his presence used to be. I stood in the doorway, unsure why I had come back again. Maybe because the emptiness itself felt heavier than his passing. Emma lingered behind me, her hands clasped in front of her. She looked around with a faint frown. "It doesn't feel real," she murmured. Then softer, almost to herself, "And still, people whisper." I turned to her. "What do you mean?" Her gaze lowered. "They say it was your family's fault, that the hunters brought the demons here, that if the bloodline had been wiped out sooner, maybe none of this would have happened." Her words trailed into silence, but the contempt beneath them was sharp enough to cut. I clenched my jaw, the sting familiar. Hate and blame. They had always hung over us like shadows. Emma stepped closer, brushing her hand against my arm. Her voice steadied. "I don't care what they say. I know the truth. I know you." Her words lingered, but my gaze drifted across the room again. Something tugged at me. A faint wrongness, almost out of place. I crossed to the corner where his writing desk stood. It had already been cleared, the inkstone and brushes set aside. But as I knelt, my hand brushed against the underside of the drawer. A ridge. A seam. Frowning, I pressed my fingers along it until something clicked. A small panel loosened, and a folded piece of parchment slipped into my hand. Emma leaned in. "What is it?" I stared at the neat, deliberate handwriting on the cover. My grandfather's hand. My chest tightened. "It's a note," I whispered. "Kai, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. I knew this day would come sooner than you wished. Age and miasma do not forgive, and I can no longer stand beside you as I once did. There is truth I must confess before you carry my name forward. I never knew who your mother truly was. Your father brought you to us, entrusted you to my daughter, your aunt, after your parents were slain. He gave no name for the woman who bore you, only the child placed in Keiko's arms. You. When I got you, I raised you as my own. But there are questions about your blood I cannot answer, questions you may one day have to face yourself. What I can give you is a path. If you mean to stand against the demons, you will need more than will and training. You will need power. There is a cave deep within the woods, the one I forbade you from entering as a boy. I did so not out of cruelty, but because of what waits within. It is no place for a child. Inside lie trials from some guardians that will test you. They will break the weak. But for one who endures, strength beyond mortal hands may be claimed. That is the only way you will survive the war that is coming. Still, I warn you, Kai. Power has a price. Every step deeper into that cave will demand something from you. Do not take that path lightly. If you go, go not for vengeance, but for survival, for life, for the chance to protect what remains. That is all I can leave you now. Live, Kai. Endure. And never forget, hatred alone will not carry you forward. Ichiro Tsubasa. Emma's eyes scanned the note as I held it open for her. She read in silence, her lips parting slightly at the mention of my mother, her brow furrowing as she reached the warning at the end. When she finished, she looked up at me. Kai, are you really going to do this? And what guardians is he talking about? I folded the paper carefully, slipping it back into its place against my chest. He wanted me to survive. If this cave is what he left me, then I have no choice. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. Then I'm coming with you. The forest greeted us with silence. No bird song, no rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth. Only the weight of the miasma, hanging thick in the air like smoke. Each breath burned faintly in my chest, and even Emma, who had never been able to sense Niran, raised a hand to her temple as if the air itself pressed against her skull. The cave loomed ahead, a dark wound torn into the side of the earth. Tendrils of pale mist curled from its mouth, spilling out into the roots and stones around it. Emma shivered. It feels wrong here, like the air doesn't want us breathing it. It's the miasma, I said quietly, stronger than anything I've felt before. She took a hesitant step closer, then stopped, her hands curled into fists at her sides. If I go in there, I'll only slow you down. I can already feel it eating at me. My head's heavy. I glanced at her, the weight in my chest doubling. Part of me wanted to argue, to demand she stay close, but another part knew she was right. Stay at the entrance, I said at last, my voice firm. If anything comes out, run. Don't wait for me. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. Just come back out, Kai. Don't leave me waiting here alone. I placed a hand on her shoulder, giving it a steady squeeze. I'll come back. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on me like she was afraid to blink. Then I turned from her and stepped into the cave. The air was colder, heavier, and the light behind me dimmed with every step. When the darkness swallowed me whole, I knew there was no turning back.